Okay, that's fine.
Stupid.
What I want this podcast to do is to say to Black people, you don't have to apologize for being who you are. You don't have to apologize for your ancestors and your people who came before you for being successful. You don't have to look somebody in the face and they look at you and say, oh, you're only in that position because you're Black. No, I'm in this position because I'm better than you. I'm in this position because I work harder than you. I'm in this position because I'm more educated than you. So I will use the vice president's terminology and say, Black people do not have to apologize for being Black. So I hope that this podcast will encourage people to acknowledge our ability in this country and what we've accomplished. And don't let people take that from you. So bring on more people. A friend of mine that works in my county, he's a retired commander in the Navy. I'd like for him to come on. I have a couple buddies of mine that I was in the military with that are PhDs, very high in their profession, so that people see something different. And stop looking at entertainers or singers or musicians or movie stars as your example. And then I'll close by saying this. I'm a huge fan of Malcolm X, and Malcolm X said in an interview, and I think we played it earlier in the year, is he essentially said, show me a community where their leaders are rappers, entertainers, musicians, or, actors. We're the only community in the United States where we have people who have no political knowledge, have no education on what this country's been through, but feel like they need to talk about those issues. No other community does that. We're the only community where somebody like Charlamagne the God is talking about politics, or Stephen A. Smith is talking about politics when he has no education or no knowledge about it.
I'm glad you brought that up because another one of our most popular topic over the past year has been the media. And so we're going to talk about Charlamagne the God first part of the next season, because Charlamagne has done something that's incredible, regardless of what you think about him and everything. He signed a $200 million deal with iHeartRadio, and his platform for podcasts called the Black Effect Podcast is blowing up, and he's got a lot of good content up there. And I have to commend him for bringing a different group of people up there on those podcasts and giving them a shot and everything. Charlamagne, anytime you want to, you can invite us to be on your Black Effect podcast, But these are the kind of things that we want to talk about, is the media and how they portray us as Black people and how we need to turn the narrative. Get on a subject that you talked about a few minutes ago is what one of those things where you use the vice president's word where he said white people don't have to apologize for being white anymore. We go off the deep end, we start arguing why he do this and why he do that, when we can just say, okay, you said that. So now as Black people, we don't have to shy away from saying we're Black and we're proud. Throw your hand up. We're Black and we're proud.
Absolutely.
Do it, You can be proud of you. You ain't got to make no excuses for being white. I don't think I've ever said you had making an excuse for being white. I think what I've been saying is you need to stop trying to put somebody else down, another group of people down, so you could be considered better. That's not, that's crazy.
But that's him. I mean,
Yeah,
that's him.
exactly.
That's his administration.
Exactly.
I always say to people is, there's no reason for you to be mad at me. You need to look at yourself. Put a mirror in front of you and ask yourself, why am I not as successful as I think I should be? It has nothing to do with anyone else. It has to do with you.
Yeah.
I have to look at the vice president and say, what type of person are you, where you felt it was a need when Charlie Kirk was murdered to go onto his podcast? This is a guy who basically said Black people are stupid, that we're intellectually inferior. This is a guy that said that when I get on a plane and I see a Black pilot, I wonder if he's qualified. The vice president of the United States went onto his podcast and did a podcast after he got murdered. And then 2 weeks later, or 2 months later, you come on and go on the stage at, Turning Point, or I call it Toilet Pot USA, uh, and say white people don't have to apologize for being white. Who's told you you need to apologize?
That's what I'm saying.
No
Ain't
one said
nobody
you need to
say you gotta
apologize. We
apologize.
just said that the world needs to be a fair playing ground.